Some of Cape Cod's freshwater abiotic factors include water, tides, and currents, the weather, so temperature, sun, and precipitation, nutrients, soil and sand and decomposition, and pH levels and salinity. These all have a huge effect on animals and plants living in the habitat. Biotic factors include insects, animals, fungi, plants, algae, bacteria, and protists. Cape Cod's ponds have like tons of different species living in them, but some of the more common ones that we see are whitewater lilies, blue herons, and lots of different kinds of freshwater fish, like trout and herring. Some of the more uncommon ones that we see are Plymouth gentian flowers, which are very pink and they're very rare, and scarlet bluet flies, which are bright red, like dragonflies that land on the whitewater lilies a lot, and they kind of have like a symbiotic relationship. There are also tons of different kinds of weeds and flowers that you can only find in Cape Cod by our ponds.
I'm in fact not in Massachusetts. This is Vermont. But a lot of abiotic and biotic factors in Massachusetts and Vermont freshwater are very similar.
The food chain starts with the producers, which are the phytoplankton. Then it moves up to the zooplankton as primary consumers. Followed by that is the flathead minnow, a secondary consumer. The flathead minnow is eaten by the blackboard, a tertiary consumer. The flathead minnow is also consumed by another tertiary consumer, the yellow perch. The yellow perch is then eaten by the northern water snake, a quaternary consumer. Also, the wood frog is eaten by the northern water snake. Then, the yellow perch is eaten by a quaternary consumer, the northern water snake. The yellow perch is also eaten by the chain pickerel, which is finally eaten by the quinary consumer of this food web, a hawk. The freshwater pond energy pyramid starts with the producers, which are phytoplankton and algae. Then we move up to the primary consumers, which are larvae, small fish, and zooplankton. Then, again, we move up to the secondary consumers, which consist of eastern newts, water scorpions, and sunfish. Then again, we move up to the tertiary consumers, which are smallmouth bass and smallmouth bass. Then we move up to the tertiary consumers, which consist of smallmouth bass and mallard ducks. Then we move to the quaternary consumers, which are water snakes and pickerel. And finally, we end this food pyramid with the quinary consumers, which are hawks.
There's so many types of relationships in ponds like these, such as mutualism, when two organisms are happy working together. Like when a minnow attaches to a larger fish, the minnow cleans off the larger fish and the big fish gets fed. Communalism is when one species is being benefited and the other one is just okay with it. Like when the mayfly larva lives in algae, giving the mayfly a place to stay while the algae is unaffected.
Ew.
Or like parasitism, when one is benefit and the other one is hurt. Like when a tapeworm can infect a fish and make them sick and possibly make them die.
Ew.
Or an example of predator-prey in this ecosystem, when a white perch fish are seen as prey for many other fish.
Go.
Or something invasive, like curly pondweed, something that's used to oxygenate ponds and
Grows really fast.
And what effects do they have on our ecosystem? They displace species, reduce biodiversity, and impede on recreational activities.
How has human activity affected this ecosystem? Well, the use of fertilizers and septic tanks have released too many nutrients into the earth, which have leached into these waters, causing too many bacteria, or too much nutrients in the pond, creating bacteria like cyanobacteria, which make a green, like sludgy-like layer above the pond, which then blocks the sunlight from getting to the plants and the fish at the bottom of the pond, harming them. And this is also known as eutrophication. Medical waste and municipal garbage. Oftentimes, people in the medical field will burn the garbage just to get rid of the germs and stop spreading diseases, which is good. But that also creates mercury that's leaching into our atmosphere. And microorganisms can actually take that mercury and create a substance called methylmercury, which can be super harmful for the plants and the animals in the pond. For the animals, it creates a harm between the blood-brain barrier and also damages their nervous system. And the plants, it just kills the plants. What kinds of waste of waste and medical supplies have all impacted this and many other ecosystems on Cape Cod. How have these pollutants impacted the ecosystem? Well, like I was saying earlier, cyanobacteria is a product of many of these pollutants, which, like I said, can damage the environment and also kill the plants and the animals living in it. And it can also even create harmful toxins and poisons, which makes it unsafe for the plants and animals in the water, also the people that want to come into the water. So what impacts have humans had on the carbon cycle in this ecosystem? Well, untreated stormwater and also septic tanks have actually polluted these waters and making them warmer, as well as just pollution from fossil fuels. Making the waters warmer actually affects plants in it and the organisms, because they know this water temperature, they don't know the warmer water temperature. So either they die if it gets too warm, or they adapt, but they're most likely going to die. So how have humans impacted the nitrogen cycle in this ecosystem? Well, many people actually use nitrogen-based fertilizers, which are good for the plants in that short time, but really have a really negative impact on this ecosystem, because they add way too much nitrogen into the air and the waters, which has many negative effects, such as lowering biodiversity, which is no good. It can also have a really crappy impact on the food chains and webs, making it difficult for plants and animals to keep on living.